Arel,
Here.
Budke, Kleva,
Here.
Holt,
Here.
Matson,
Here.
Reichert, Sandy,
Here.
Wasvik.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have everybody. Love it. Reading and approval from the January 7th, 2026 meetings. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert.
Second.
Well, second by Mr. Mattson. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Minutes are approved as submitted. Public hearings, final approval of petitions and minor changes.
Item 3.1, ordinance to amend the zoning map to rezone from Dayhud PUD Amendment Number 2 PUD B2 Shopping Center uses to Dayhud Amendment Number 3 PUD B3 General Business Uses located at 2800 South Columbia Road.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. So this one we did talk a little bit about last time. There's been no changes since last time. It still requests to go from the B2 with the additional pieces that we had on there, just going to a B3 district. They haven't said their intentions are to take a look at doing some inside storage. They're still in they're still have not put together a design because they wanted to get through this rezoning process first. Once they do that, then we can start to do their review. This is the same group that did the Kmart piece in the past, and I do think that that was a successful run with that one. So we are in favor of moving forward with this. There was one comment that we received last time. We haven't received any new ones on this one, but this one is a public hearing tonight. About 50 notices were sent out roughly on this one. So I think it's been hit up. We went 800 feet around. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Brooks? Mr. Reichert?
Yeah, is it normal to have a mall that has different zoning in different parts of the same building? So, because this will still be B2 on the rest of the mall, right? And B3 on this.
Yeah, so there actually is a property line that separates these, even though they're the same building.
Yeah.
So we do try to stick with the same zoning on the same property, although we have had different ways to work around that. But at some point, I envisioned potentially other changes coming in the future as well. But at this point, no, I think I don't know if it's that unusual. B3 is a pretty common general business, and there only are a few, not major differences between those two. And I do anticipate, and the one thing I think I forgot to mention this time, but had last time, I do anticipate at least some conversation about the ring road being potentially developed into the future as well, because I think there's some excess spots, and that's not just for this site. I think it's some other ones too around there. It's overparked, right? Today, it was to an old standard that we've already surpassed a long time ago, and it's just more parking than is needed, and it's a lot
For the
to
4 businesses that are in there.
yeah, there's a lot of room on that site, and the mall itself is 650,000 square feet roughly. Because if you think about each anchor tenant being about 100,000 and about 250 in the center spoke area, it's a lot of square footage. And as we all know, that we've had 2 major tenants that are vacant today, and I don't want to even ballpark what that 250 center portion is vacant, but it is quite a bit. If you go down that Macy's wing alone, I think there's maybe one business when I was there before Christmas that was in there. There was one in the food court. So there's a lot of things that I think that as we go through future years here, a lot of redevelopment that needs to occur there.
All right, any other questions? With that, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience want to step up and address 3.1, please do so at this time. Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to commission. Sorry, I was being quick. Didn't see anybody. State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Philip Heilman, and I live at 145 Hennepin Street, LaSalle, Illinois, 61301. I am here to represent GK Real Estate. There was a letter that was sent to City Council. I don't know have you received this letter in the past? I don't know if you needed a copy. I brought extras. But I'm just here basically to read what was sent by ownership. As the owner of Columbia Mall, we urge the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council to reject any requested change in zoning for this property. The intent of the existing zoning uses what was to say consistent with the reciprocal easement agreement governing the property and its uses between the different property owners. A change in zoning that would allow non-retail uses will have a significantly negative impact on the value of the mall, its ability to lease to retail tenants, and the possibility for any future redevelopment of the overall site for the benefit of the community. The potential purchasers reached out in August of 2025 with the intention of trying to convert the former Macy's building to indoor self-storage, which is the key reason they are trying to rezone the site. We explained to them that an indoor self-storage use is not allowed under the reciprocal easement agreement, and changes the building that use would have a huge negative impact on the retailers that currently use the mall and on the community, which wants more retail and dining uses at the site. And that is why the reciprocal easement agreement was originally created and why it remains the governing document between the owners of the mall. We own other malls across the country, and the instances where an indoor self-storage was allowed to backfill former department stores has sent those malls into a death spiral. It eliminated the ability to lease the center to retail and restaurant users and ultimately emptied out the existing tenants that relied on retail foot traffic from the department stores or their retail replacements as the main traffic driver for inline small shop space to survive. Excuse me. The current state of the mall vacancy at Columbia Mall has been the direct result of the closing of Macy's and Sears. Unfortunately, the mall does not own or control either of those buildings, but we have started to gain momentum on the leasing side with more local small businesses in line. Also, we are working with larger national retailers to convert some of the interior space to exterior access to allow for better retail success. That leasing momentum will be eliminated if the former Macy's is converted into an indoor self-storage use. If the city allows a change in zoning to indoor self-storage use, it would be as negatively impactful as a condemnation for the remainder of the property. The former Macy's building is the front main entrance to the property, and any use other than retail would be disastrous for any future for this site. We have had several conversations with Mayor Bajenski and Todd Phelan regarding a change in zoning and use for the building, and how negatively impactful that would be not only for the site, but for the city and any future use for the real estate. We strongly suggest the city to not allow a change in the zoning that would allow non-retail use and to keep the current zoning in place. And with that said, if the council does decide to change the zoning, they prefer that the change in the zoning apply to the entire property, so it's all the same. And that's all I have to say.
Any questions?
Yeah, so you don't want this to be self-storage, but if we allow this to be self-storage, you want the whole mall to be.
Yes, ownership prefers that the zoning be the same for the entire property.
So is it a bad thing or a good thing?
Well, this is ownership called me yesterday. We had a call, and they told me to show up here and read this out to you guys, and that's the plan. That's what they've instructed me to ask of the council.
Mr. Brooks, is that something that without the rest of the properties, Sears being separate and JCPenney's and
They'd have to go through the process, right? So we've just done a notice on this one alone. I would, if that is something that they would desire, certainly could make that request. And I don't think they can answer for the previous Sears building because I think that one is owned by a separate party. Shields is also owned by a separate party. So I would be hesitant to, unless I would want to get their feedback from
Right.
both of those before we did that.
But I mean, to change it to a B3, they still can retail in there. They can do whatever they want, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I assume you don't know anything more.
No, sir, I do not. I'm more of a field guy. I'm the operations, the hiring, the budgets, the collecting the rent, the staffing, that type of thing.
So is there a plan to do something else with the rest of the mall?
At this time, I'm not able to speak to that.
You're not able to?
No, I'm not able to. I'm not in the know. I don't do the leasing.
You don't know?
I don't do the leasing. Yes, that's correct.
Well, being somebody that's been in Macy's in the last couple months, it's gonna take a dozer to fix it. The pipes are broken, they've been froze. It's absolute disaster. I'm just telling you.
Well, the whole mall's a disaster.
I mean, no, that place it actually is pretty unsafe and nasty. So something needs to be done with it. Well, any other questions? I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission.
Yeah, we have a motion. We already have a motion.
Well, it didn't take it
Oh,
because,
okay. Move approval.
thank you. Second by Miss Sandy. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same, thanks. Opposed, same sign. Unanimously passes 3-1. 3-2. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Item 3-2, plat of Grand Park First Edition located at 6300 to 6800 blocks of South 20th Street with dedication of street and highway ordinance.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. So this one was on last time as well. Here's Grand Valley. First of all, I'll say north is to the left on this one as you're looking at it. So here's South 20th Street. South 20th Street is in. These lots are looking to be picked up on the west side of 20th Street. That's on the lower half here. A little bit smaller lots than what Grand Valley was. I think those were 70 to 80 sized lots. These ones are going to be mostly around the 55 range. So they are a little bit smaller. They didn't go as small as, remember we had some concerns with some other lots going, below 40, so they aren't that. But by going that 55 range, they're looking for that sweet spot with the specials and try to get a good amount there and still provide a good sized lot. Going for a little bit different price point, I think, than what you'll see with Grand Valley. So it won't necessarily compete, but I think they will be complementary to each other. And with that, I'll answer any questions. I think in the future, we'll probably have, continue on and see some future development to the west here as well. And we also know that Prairies have the land to the east and then the south, to the south of 69th as well, which is where their future expansion area was as well.
All right.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Brooks? I guess I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience would like to step up and address 3-2, please do so at this time. Not seeing anyone, I'll close the public hearing. Make sure, close the public hearing. Bring it back to commission. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Mattson. Any further discussion? Not Mr. Butke. Sorry.
Yeah, so I voted against this last time. I think I've dissented on a few of the different items in this neighborhood, I guess we'll say. I'm still a no on this. I just want to say the reason for that is not because I don't see some virtue here, right? Like I was just jotting down, like I get it. Like these will be surely good homes, good living situation for people, right? We're talking about adding to the housing supply, which I've been eager to harp on. It'll add to the property tax base, all good. Perhaps there's a sales tax impact there, building permits, right? All good things. My concern has never been about like the short or even the medium term here. It's always been about the longer term impact, right? Like how are we looking at this from like a civic perspective? So we have, I realize this is the plat, we've got the zoning is next. When we start out with something that's R1 low intensity, we've been talking about it for months now, right? There's no ability for that to develop into anything more intense, right? To add more property value in the future, add more housing stock in the future, right? It's locked in amber. So whatever that whatever those benefits are in the short term, they have limited runway going in the future. The property can't adapt. So I've had a taken issue with that for some time. Also, when we look at the plat, it's really quite isolated, right, from other types of uses, right? It's sort of a monoculture of residences. It's not that you can't have like a nice, pleasant stroll here in the weekend or in the evening, but what I don't see is any ability to have a useful walk, right? Like to get groceries, to buy anything, to engage with commerce in any way other than like getting in your car, getting on the road network. So, I see this and it's like I see very limited potential for to add it to, say, our transit network in the town, right? A system that scales. And instead we just add more and more automobiles, more car trips to the existing transportation network that's already been largely built out and is difficult to expand. That is a lot harder to scale. So those are my reservations. And I think it's actually articulated pretty well in that in the staff report. There's it says general development goal, objective C. Annexation will be used as a tool for equity, providing a system where all residents and landowners share in the benefits and costs of municipal services. I'm sorry, I just do not feel like we've really scrutinized that we've really like done the math on that. Again, not in the near term, but in the long term. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Any other
I'll
questions?
make a comment.
Yeah,
So typically in these developments, the commercial is built out last. We have lots of commercial property in town, and I don't think that we can necessarily force owners to force businesses to come out and then build so that people can walk to their businesses. The businesses will come after the people live there, and that's just kind of how the process, I think, needs to work. Whether I agree with walkability, it's fun, yeah, typically, but I'll tell you, I'm not walking even 2 blocks to the grocery store. I'm just not. And I don't know other people who do. But that doesn't mean that there won't someday be a gas station or something with groceries, but we can't not develop housing waiting for a grocery store, because it'll never happen. And we can't have the bus transit out here because there's not enough housing yet. So you have to start with the housing. So I don't know, like if we all, and it's great, we should all have different ideas of how this works. But if we all wanted that, we wouldn't end up getting any more housing, because there's a certain way that it has to go. I mean, I'm not going to build a business. I don't think that anyone else would build a business out in the middle of a field with no houses. So first we have to build the houses. And I appreciate that someone is coming and willing to build this stretch. My understanding is it's the same builders building the whole thing. They have the plans already figured out, and they're going to try to hit a price point that other builders haven't done. And so I hope this goes well, and then I hope they do the next street, add a street behind it. And if there are enough people there, the Prairie's put in a nice park out there, so there will be places to walk to. It just, we have to give it some time to develop, in my opinion.
I would agree. And people, a lot of people do buy for that comfort level that nothing is going across the street from me. If you're going to invest in a home, I don't want in 10 years for it to change and duplexes and whatever. They see a lot, they see a plat. That's why we make people put up signs everywhere in town that they're developing now. We want you to see that. And I agree. At our meeting last night, we talked about our big shortage of housing and all the commercial development coming in, all the people moving to this town to fill the jobs that are coming with all these complexes and potato plants and fertilizers and whatever else. Here's a nice neighborhood. We smallened the lots. We've done what everybody's asked. The developer's done what everybody's asked us to do. Get the pricing down, make little smaller lots, something you've asked for. Mm-hmm. So at some point, we gotta roll the dice and get the houses in there. And I agree with Megan big time on this. I've seen it a million times. You fill in the neighborhood, the little gas stations, the mom and pop shops, the liquor stores, the bookstores, start filling in around that neighborhood. For sure. That's all I got. Anybody else?
If I could, Chair, grocery stores, you need over 5,000 people, right, to feed a grocery store. We have how many Hugos here in town? You can talk about the Walmarts and the Super Targets. That you need a certain population density. We know where Hugos owns along 47th and Wash. That's probably going to be the grocery store here. But I think what's going to happen at the corner here, which would be potentially walkable for kids, for adults potentially, is it's going to be a convenience store. And those convenience stores are starting to have some grocery. And, you know, I don't want to use any of their names, but a lot of the new ones now are getting more and more. They're having food items in there. So if you need to go grab a milk real quick, you can go in there. Valley Dairy did it for many years, right? And they became that, and that's at 47th and Wash now. And I think this intersection will have that. I think it would be, I do like the fact that these are smaller lots. I think that's good, and it's providing another opportunity. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but to push back, I think, you know, on the edge here, we cannot wait for another grocery store. I think there are spaces for people that want that walkability, but they're, you know, building new. We're going to probably have to look at the West Walmart area, and we are trying to work on that. But I don't think it should be at the detriment of these other areas, because we are trying to do both. And these 31 lots, I think, will be built on by that time. So hopefully, right? I mean,
Right.
I think that's what we need right now. So that's just my quick piece I wanted to say on that.
All right. Any further discussion? I will call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Jenny, I will slow down and catch you. Sorry about that.
All good.
All right. 3-3.
Item 3.3, ordinance to amend the zoning map to rezone from Grand Valley PUD to Grand Valley PUD Amendment 1, A2 to PUD R1, located at 6300 to 6800 blocks of South 20th Street.
Mr. Brooks.
This is just adding this area into the larger PUD that's, you know, essentially we're setting up for Washington to 62nd or in south there and west to have this, just adding on to that PUD and potentially continuing on, and it kind of shows where everything is growing together. It could have been a separate PUD, but we thought it made more sense to lock them in, especially since they're using the same road. So still using the Grand Valley name, which is, I think, going to be one of the more identifiable names out in that area. So with that, I'll stand for any questions. We did mail out notices on this one too, roughly 50, I think, on this one. This one's 62.
Any questions for Mr. Brooks before I open the public hearing? Not seeing any, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience want to step up and address 3-3, do so at this time? Not seeing anybody, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to Commission. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Ms. Sandy. Any further discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
3-3 passes. Communications and preliminary approvals. Mr.
Item 4.1, plat of Grand Reserve First Edition, located at 1400 through 1900 blocks of 32nd Avenue South, with dedication of street and highway ordinance.
Mr. Brooks.
So this is a relatively new area. A lot of folks, at least in our office, and I don't know if people outside, referred to this as the DeSoto area. So Berkshire Hathaway piece is right here. Here's the Natural Grocers. Here's the Slumberland, and then Rydell, Honda, Nissan. And so the area we're going to have is this undeveloped piece that's been inside city limits since the mid to late 70s. And for those who are history buffs for Grand Forks, this was an area that some were making an effort to be the first mall area. So ironic that that's on the same night as the last one that we had, or previous one. But so here's a quick look at the plat. What they're setting up for is kind of what we anticipated. Commercial up on 32nd on these two two blocks up here, and then multifamily behind. We have some density, for the plat, I won't talk about all the density limiters we're talking about, but for the most part, it's what we anticipated. This developer doesn't have anything in mind. So it's the property owner has changed over to a grandson, and he's in the process of trying to develop it. He wants to put 17th in and aggressively market this for sale. So he won't be developing it in terms of putting up structures himself. He's actively has it marketed.
Do you want to just talk about the zone change too, and then we'll break it up and vote on it while you're
Sure.
on a roll?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's again, here's that B3 area here, Natural Grocers and Berkshire here. They've got commercial in this area. And then as well between Berkshire and then Slumberland, B3 there, they're going to have a dividing line about 34th here. If you look at this being 36th and 32nd, these will be the R4 areas. And then we have some density limiters on there because there is a sanitary sewer. There's a limit of what we can do. And I think it was 30 that we put on this. Yeah, 30 units an acre for these two purple areas. And then we, at some point in the future, if let's say they only build 20 units an acre or something like that on these, and let's say this thing's still vacant, in the future, they could come in and potentially ask for that change. But I will tell you that we'll want to make sure, obviously, sanitary sewers, that we have the capacity, because we can't have things go wrong in the sanitary sewer department. Everybody knows, and that's not a good thing. So we'll be monitoring that, but it could potentially be a request in the future but they do want to market it commercial today.
When do they plan?
Please, ask questions on
When
either
do
one.
they plan to open that road through, and how is that gonna look on 32nd?
Well, the request will come, right? That they'll have to make a request, and they want to obviously get the DOT to agree to put a light there. That's a heavy lift, potentially, to get a light there. I won't go through all those iterations, but I don't even know if Al has those answers right now, but DOT has to approve a traffic study, and then it's got to be funded as well. So there's two major steps that are going on. They have submitted the traffic study, but there's some more information that we're looking for on that before we get to that level. But the intersection's there today, and it could certainly be requested today, but we will run into a little bit of a chicken and an egg. The traffic turns aren't going to be to the south area yet, but you do have Hugo's to the north, and then we have some vacant commercial next to Northern Air now that is available as well. And I haven't talked to that owner yet, but in previously he had asked what it would take to get a light there as well. So I'm guessing Hugo's would be more than happy to have a light at their intersection as well.
That'd be a great infill deal here.
Mhm.
Mr. Reichert?
You said that we're limiting it because of the sanitary sewer, I assume. Is that what it was, the
Yeah,
sanitary?
it's sanitary sewer.
So how much of an area feeds into that? How much undeveloped area still leads into that sanitary sewer?
Undeveloped?
Undeveloped.
I believe, I've worked a little bit with WFW who's doing that study. We looked at all of these areas. I think he was looking at this one as well, but that was the end of it, right? Because Masonic Park, I think, is where that lift station is, if I look to where that funnels to. So this is basically the Columbia to Washington, 32nd to 47th, and maybe beyond 47th. Yeah, it may go beyond, just because South Middle School may feed into that potentially as well, because that's not a full
So I guess
section there.
my larger point is, and it's sort of ties into what Andrew was saying earlier. I mean, if we're currently limiting this development because we don't have the infrastructure, but we've still got a bunch of things to be developed, so that infrastructure is going to have to be increased, isn't it? Or
So we're putting this 30 unit max on there. He doesn't know what he's going to put in there. I think 30, if you look back to Cardinal Point, that's just over 25 units an acre. I don't think he's good. We're putting that limit on there just in case somebody really gets crazy with whatever they're submitting to us. I don't know if that'll actually be a true limiter. He just, our normal R4 is at 50. We probably need to have a conversation about restricting that only because we're not seeing 50. I think Andrew's probably going to push back on that, but quite frankly, our lift stations wouldn't be set up like if we started throwing R4s everywhere. It's just that balance, right, that we have to look at. I think 30 units an acre, that's what we normally, that's more than what we normally see when we think about Cardinal Point being one of the bigger ones. Franklin on 4th is more, but Franklin on 4th is different. They didn't have to do parking on their own site. If we actually started putting that, 5/2 construction, I think then you're going to start to get 30, maybe low 30s potentially. But I don't think we're going to get a lot of developers looking at being able to get their rents on that. My guess is that
costs
we're
are-
going to be under 30.
You go to different codes and your costs go crazy.
Yeah. So it is a limiter, yes, but I don't think it'll be adverse to him or to his potential buyer, if that makes sense.
So the other developments that we're going to see coming in is this the end? I mean, if he builds 30 units, is that sewer full? Or are we just saying for this 2% of the area, we can only have so much flow coming?
That's our best information right now is 30 units an acre. And I think that study was done, but I'll look back at, I think that was 30 units an acre is where we were, but maybe that might be a better question for the engineer.
So
I'm just one or
Yeah.
two more questions. So how hard is it to make a bigger sewer?
Well, there's two things that are going on. It's the capacity of the lift station and then the pipes to get there. I think we're already looking at, and you're talking to a planner, but I'll work through this and then somebody can shake their head yes or no behind me. There's some pipe bursting that's got to go on down on 36th to get it over to South 20th Street here. There's going to have to be some upgrade of the pipes there that they'll be responsible for. But it's doable and relatively a good cost, I guess. Pipe bursting, as far as I know, is at least economically feasible to do that. But that was my understanding. I think at some point we'd have to talk about, how much more can go into our lift station. And we had that conversation on the Burkholz thing. I think we were probably getting to a max, but we had a lot more multifamily in that area where Burkholz fed into, which was the Veterans Park.
So by putting this R4 here, are we limiting future development on this entire system, the entire
If we-
sewer system in that area?
No, I would say we're about maxing out for that whole area since everything else is developed, apart from potentially having some redeveloped areas, although everything's developed in this area for the
So
most part.
everything that feeds this is developed. That's the crux of it, right?
Yeah,
Because
they're-
if we're going to have to expand that pipe anyway, then what do we care? But and the other thing that concerns me now a little bit is if this is the end and this is the last thing to go in, we should be really careful on what we put in here so we don't have to expand that pipe, right?
Yeah, I think that's what the engineers are definitely doing, which is why that's why they're asking for those studies, because they know we're getting to the end of the line. It isn't that, hey, we got all this runway still to go and yeah, we'll be fine. As we're getting towards the end on these, and Al, let me know if I'm saying more. I probably
Here
am.
he comes.
Yeah.
You brought in the guns now.
right.
Here he is.
Maybe just a quick explanation, because obviously you've got a pipe that's already there and it's got a certain amount of capacity. The R4 at 30 units an acre generates a certain amount of sewage. I can't remember the numbers, certain thousands of gallons, a day and minute. The B3 units, the thing that we're struggling with on the infrastructure side for sewer is technically on the B3, they can stack residential on top of it. Okay, so now if that happens and all of a sudden that commercial property at, 1/5 of what an R4 would generate starts to act like an R4. So what we're doing in here is we've done the analysis, or WFW is working through the analysis. There are some undeveloped parcels out here, but they've loaded into their model, the commercial type uses and the typical sewage generation that's going in there. So we're really just concentrating on this. The discussions we had with the developer, again, if you go into B3 and it turns into a car dealership, okay, that's way different than if it turns into something that's got a truck wash and a car wash and all those generate a lot of different sewage. Right now, you've got kind of a anticipated amalgamation of what that will generate. But I think the point here is that we know we can accommodate this for now, and the discussion is open in the future. If something comes in and lowers it here, you can kind of transfer that someplace else. And so as time goes on and the area gets developed, let's say they develop these, R4 at, instead of 30 units an acre, they develop them at 20 units an acre for whatever reason. Well, all of a sudden now you can shift some of that, right? But I think what we're saying now is we don't want to say that there's an unlimited umbrella for everybody everywhere. And so that's if maybe a different way of saying it. It's not that we're restricting, we're just not making it totally unrestricted. Because we do know eventually we have limitations. Quite a number of the multifamily things that we've been talking about here in the last year could ultimately require pipe bursting to accommodate sewage flows and stuff. So we're kind of accumulating a list, but part of it is it's a matter of wait and see, right? Because you don't know. Again, my example of bookending it is a car dealership versus a bunch of truck and car washes, right? You can envision the sewage generation difference between those. So once we know more, I think there's certainly capacity. We don't want to limit anything. We just don't want to, again, leave an unbounded anticipation either.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Grasser, for your insight again. An amalgamation, was that the word? I got to write that down. That was good. I mean, when you think about Cardinal Point being 24 and then 30, it gives you some room. But yeah, so if there's no other discussion on it, we'll break up Mr. Mattson, sorry.
Back to the plat, access for the B3 lots there. Is it envisioned that everything would come off of 17th to block 1, lot 1 there?
Yes.
And no other access to that? And then block 2, there would be potentially, whatever that dimension is, 502 feet across from Northern Air would potentially be another access into that? Or is that maybe going to be controlled in the future?
Yeah, I think that's there today. We don't know. We're not guaranteeing full access. So keep that in mind as well. So where these access points are, that does not mean that it would be that they'd even be able to go from here up to Northern Air in the future, because that'll still be done separately. So it may just be a right in, right out there.
And from your perspective, where block 1 is there, if there ends up being a lot of traffic, a high, in and out of that, is it good to have that offset from where 34th Street is sitting there? Or does that maybe create some of those left-hand turn challenges? Because the lots don't align on the south end there.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's something we can certainly look at by final. It's a good point.
Something I see there, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely would be an offset. So.
No, good questions. So Mr. Eckert.
Move approval.
Wait.
Oh, good.
Time out. So we'll break these up. So the first one we'll vote on, we already read in, it's 4-1. So I guess I'm looking for a motion on 4-1.
Move approval.
Second.
Second by Sandy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Well, 4-1 passes. 4-2, we better read that one in.
Item 4.2, ordinance to amend the zoning map to rezone from DeSoto PUD Amendment 2 to DeSoto PUD Amendment 3, located at 1400 to 1900 blocks of 32nd Avenue South.
And with that, Mr. Eckert.
Move approval.
Second by Mr. Mattson. Any further discussion? Not seeing anything. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 4-2 passes unanimously. Reports from the planning department.
Good evening. We've got a few site plans, a couple site plans approved, couple under review. Parking subcommittee, we're in full swing of public input for the parking changes. We'll meet with the subcommittee next month to go over the public feedback we've gotten. Still working to schedule a couple more, hopefully on that as well. Looking March, April timeframe to bring that forward back to you guys, but we'll discuss that with the subcommittee. Move forward with that. Sign subcommittee, no updates there. That's it for the monthly update. We'll jump into the annual report if that's all right, unless you had questions on the monthly update.
That would be awesome.
All right, so 2025 for us, Mr. Kuhn moved on and has actually moved inside city limits. That's why he wasn't able, he was our ET rep. Have to be outside of city limits to serve in that position. He's now with us in the city. And we've got Mr. Holt joining us in his stead. I do believe we still have an ET position open, actually. That's worthwhile pointing out. That'll be reopening soon, if you know anybody in the ET. Our lovely org chart. Your commission action for the last 12 months in 2025. Little 33 acres we annexed. That would have been the Burkholds and the 47th Avenue South right-of-way changes. On various plats. 2050 land use plan is still our guiding document in terms of what we base all of our decisions on. Code amendments you guys undertook last year would have been the non-conforming uses, lots and structures. Again, that allowed a residential structure to be rebuilt, certainly helped our existing housing stock, and we've been slowly trickling in all of those non-conforming residentials to try to capture those. Also amended the Planning and Zoning Commission in response to state legislation where we added the Air Force base or their designee.
If he'd like to stand up and say a few words, he can.
Off-street parking code, phase one, we did the multifamily, the rest of it will come forward later this year. For standing committees, we obviously have a partnership with Metropolitan Planning Organization. They oversee the federal funding for transit and a lot of our streets. They meet monthly. Big projects there would have been the Grand Valley Pedestrian Study, Safe Streets for All, and Microtransit Study. This year with them, we'll have the socioeconomic, which is the demographic update leading into the MTP, Metropolitan Transit Plan.
And it'll be on Mondays. Oh, and then we'll bring it back.
The socioeconomic will be Monday, asking council their input on a growth rate. Those of you who have sat on a land use update recall the growth rate being part of that, just to determine how much growth to allocate land for. That'll come through socioeconomic, then the MTP, which is our guiding transportation funding mechanism. Subcommittees, signs and parking have met and will continue to meet into the new year as we work still on billboards, still on the off-street parking code. Off-street parking also has the goal of assisting housing and development costs. Again, right-sized parking, you save financially and hopefully get closer to that housing affordability piece. Site plans, Haley and Sierra, whoa, she's not going to be happy to help me with that. Approved 42 plans last year. Don't know where that one came from. Housing, again, continues to be our biggest issue, concern in the department, again, following different low density trends. Single family plats that came in this year, Sierra made a point of advocating that all the plots we received for housing this year were single family attached. We're not seeing single family detached. We obviously have the recent one on Grand Park coming forward, but that housing trend is significant to note as we try to capture different ways to cost save in terms of new developments. But again, those even attached units are still coming in around the $375 price point, which we all know is on the high end. Multifamily too continues to be a concern. We're not seeing as many units as we would like, though this year we do, or 2025, we had a slight uptick. Empire Townhomes. What was the other one that was permitted? Sixplex on North 3rd Street. So small incremental changes, every bit of it helps, though we are sitting at a still very low vacancy rate with 3.5%. 10% is a healthy market, so 3% is still very much in the, clearly shows a demand. Also, a big part of our project last year was the missing middle housing code audit. ARP thankfully partnered with us to give us a review of how our code fits or doesn't fit with that scenario. Again, to Mr. Budke's point earlier, 70% of our land is zoned R1, cannot see an incremental increase in units, those different types of
additions. And so it's certainly a limiter in terms of adding a little bit where you can. That development and that type of plan fits better in some areas than others. We've certainly talked about the middle of town being a better opportunity for Missing Middle just because it is closer to more established amenities, more established commercial opportunities, workforce opportunities there too. We'll continue to look at it. Sanitary sewer has become a big part of those limiters as new developments are coming in with infill. Our infill areas were developed for infrastructure 80s, 90s, right? And that trend at that time was lower density developments. We did not anticipate multifamily ramping back up to 30s or 50s, but now we're at the market that we are, and we're having those limitations. And so Missing Middle ties into that, because if you can't incrementally increase because of sanitary capacities, it's challenging across the board. But development changes, development patterns change due to market. We're trying to adjust as best we can. Staff achievements, do want to highlight Haley graduated with her bachelor's degree this year. Extremely proud of her. She did that while working full time. So yes. Yes.
Way to go, Haley.
Yep. In 2026 projects, we'll again continue to work on those subcommittees. Again, with those Missing Middle and housing, we are trying to go after what we can, where we can. The parking code, trying to chip away at things to help with housing. Signs are just a thing we just need to address. We'll get there. Agristo, and again, housing in all forms and fashion will be our target for this coming year. Any questions?
Thank you. Very well done, Andrea. All right. Any other business? Not seeing any? Motion to adjourn, second? Third, fourth? Meeting adjourned.